Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 5 of PHP. Last week, hopefully, what you were able to accomplish was to be able to create an HTML form and then submit that form for it to be processed in a PHP page. It's very important that you keep that in two separate pages. Like I said, I know there's a lot of things written out there trying to keep it all in one page. I want you guys to keep it in two pages. As a matter of fact, we're going to probably break it down even more than that. So I want you to have your HTML document calling the PHP document. So everything I teach you on this video is assuming that you did that. If you didn't do that, please go back and do that. Let's don't keep it all in one document. Later on, we're going to try our hand at MVC, which is called Model, View, and Control, and which is a great methodology that's being used in the industry quite a bit. Breaking it apart right now will help us understand that better later on. So please make sure you're doing that. Okay? This week, for the most part, is a rather simple week. Obviously, you created your HTML control, and then what you did is you submitted it, and we did something with it. Well, the one thing we need to make sure of is everything is validated. There's a couple different ways of validation. Obviously, HTML5. You can use validation for HTML5, and I have no problem with that. If you want to go ahead and do that. Prior to HTML5, though, the one thing about HTML5 you have to be worried about is that validation doesn't work on every browser for HTML5. If you actually go out to W3 Schools and find HTML5 validation, you'll see the browsers it still does not work on. And in some cases, some validation works on all browsers, and in some cases, it doesn't work on all browsers. So if that's the case, I'm not sure you could use HTML5 for validation at this point. At some point, we'll be able to, but until all browsers can accept it, you want to be very careful in that regard. But the one things all browsers can do is using JavaScript validation. So this week, I wanted you to play around with a little bit of JavaScript validation, okay? In addition to that, I wanted you to add some more things to your form and also be able to receive that information on the PHP side. All right. So it's a short little video. I'm just going to show you some of the things that can help you and kind of get you past this assignment. But once again, I don't anticipate this being overly difficult, but just hopefully good knowledge that will help you move forward to becoming a better web application programmer. So the first thing we're talking about doing is I gave you some sample code in regards to JavaScript validation examples. The other thing I gave you down here is the validation code. This is W3 Schools. It goes through it for you, all right? So with that, if we sit back and kind of look at this, number one, here is the validation, W3 Schools. It looks at JavaScript forms, and it shows you how to do validation. Once you kind of have a couple of these down based upon the different types of controls you can have on your form, then it becomes a cut and paste after that. And so hopefully you kind of get used to this and walk through this. You can kind of see some of the examples and then apply it accordingly. Okay. And based upon this, you could also probably type in JavaScript validation code into Google and find a lot more websites that will show you how to do it. I also show you how to do it, obviously, in my code. And let me kind of show you how this works, all right? I want to see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Sorry, let's bring this back. There you go. That's a little bit better, right? This particular form, it's not that big a deal. Let's go back down here. All we really have is a first name and a phone number, okay? But look what's going on. I got my form name. I have an action. I'm not taking this to a PHP form. I'm just taking the Cincinnati state if it works right. But you're going to take it to a PHP form if it validates. That's what you'll have in the action there. Basically, the current PHP that you're using right now. All right. Enhanced, of course, for this updated problem on the one that you're already working on. I'll kind of enhance that a little bit. So you don't put the same PHP processing page in there and then process accordingly based on all the enhancements that you did for your assignment. How this is going to work is this. You're going to still have a submit, okay? So your button times submit. However, what we're going to do in JavaScript is trap that submit, all right? I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with JavaScript at this point in time. I know you all have HTML. I know sometimes when we get to the JavaScript part, people get a little bit confused, but let's make sure you understand this. This is called an event, all right? It's no different than an event that you had in .NET. So JavaScript has events. If you need some if you need to look at it one more time or go back and learn it again, go to W3 Schools JavaScript and look at our events. In this one, what you're basically going to be doing is on submit, return. We're basically saying I want something returned here and validate the form. How this is going to work, if it returns true, we'll submit the form to whatever's in our action. If it returns false, it will go back to the form for things to be fixed. Pretty cool, right? So for the most part, this is a cut and paste. A lot of things in JavaScript are cut and paste. So in your case, all you need to do is cut and paste this right there, and just make sure you call your form name accordingly. Whatever your form name is needs to be right there. The one I'm calling is a function in JavaScript. And here's my JavaScript right here. I'm calling validate form. All right. Now what I'm doing here is going through and I have this, I passed the form. I can name it anything up here, but I'm passing the form. And then with this form, I'm going through each of my controls. So for your assignment, you have a lot of controls. In some cases, you have radio buttons and so on. You don't need to validate those. But what you can do for all your text boxes and so on is just have an if statement for each one of those. And then basically what I'm doing is I have a couple different things I'm actually doing here to give you examples. And then once again, you could go and find other functions that actually does the same thing. For the first one, I want to make sure first name is completed. That's pretty easy. We get that a lot, right? And all it is I'm calling, in this case, validate required. I'm calling validate required. I'm passing my field. All right. And in this case, my field's going to be first name. That's the name of my field on the form, and my alert message. So what's kind of cool about this particular function is it works with any text box that you have. I don't need to rewrite a new function for every text box. I just keep calling it and pass whatever text box it is I want them to look at. Does that make sense? So if I had added a last name, I would have another if condition, validate required with L name under it. Okay, if I had a control down there called that. Okay, make sense? All right. And then what we're going to do is we're going to check if it's equal to false. Okay, make sure equal. That's what equals are. I had somebody, a couple people, matter of fact, run into some problems on the first problem where they just put the equal sign in there. JavaScript requires equals when you're comparing two things. All right. So if this is false, we're going to return false, and we're going to set the focus back to first name. All right. And then, so in this case, pretty easy. All really good. It's returning false right here. Everything is fine. We're checking to see if there's anything in there. If there is, we're going to do the alert text, whatever I pass down, and we're going to return false. Alert is basically a message box in JavaScript. All right. The second one gets a little bit more complicated, but not so much. Basically, what this one's doing is I'm passing the phone number down, same type of thing with the alert message. And then what I'm doing is I'm doing this thing called a regular expression. I'm not sure if any of you have heard that before, or most of you have heard it before, but it's called a regular expression. And what this expression here is basically saying, are you putting your phone number in correctly? And what this, I know this mess right here is basically saying that you're putting numbers into brackets accordingly. 3 numbers, that's what this is saying, in 0 through 9 into brackets, and then a dash or a period, and then more brackets, 3 numbers, 0 through 9, a dash or a period, and this is concatenation right there, okay? And then basically 4 numbers. That's what that's saying. You don't have to learn how to do regular expressions. If you go in Google, regular expressions in JavaScript, it will give you every possible regular expression you could ever want. One for social security number, one for phone number, one for, I don't know, what else would be out there. But those are probably the big ones that we probably look at. All right. So I just make that regular expression equal to my phone number, and then I'm doing a match. I'm going to see if what I put in matches that regular expression in regards to format and in regards to the numbers from 0 through 9. If it does, we return true. If it doesn't, we return false. What do you think? Take a look at that. Listen to what I said again if you need to. It's not that hard. It's called regular expressions. And what's kind of cool about it is once you write this phone number validation once, you got it forever. You just cut and paste it into your next assignments or your next websites or whatever it is. You don't need to go back over and over again. Once again, HTML5 will validate phone numbers. However, you need to, I said this all over again, make sure all the websites or all the browsers, I should say, that you're using can use that or supports that. What do you think? All right. So I kind of built a little, function that calls other functions. Again, for your assignment, you'll probably have several if statements because of all the different inputs you have to put in there. Okay. And you're going to use the same one here and just keep passing the field down if you have several text boxes to make sure it actually exists. If you have a phone number or you have a social security number or anything like that, you can use regular expressions to make sure it's actually put in the correct way. Once again, and so if you need anything beyond that, go Google it. I love for you guys to go figure things out a little bit on yourself versus me just handing it to you. It's all out there on Google. Just type in JavaScript validations for and whatever kind of control you're trying to validate, and the code will pop up, and you can just plop it right in here and call it accordingly. Hopefully this all makes sense. Hopefully by this time, most of you have taken either a C# or a Java or I don't know, what other type of class C or something like that. If you have, how this is all written with the parentheses should be not too foreign to you. I know probably when you took it in JavaScript or HTML, it kind of was. All right, that's that. Okay, so the next part that I wanted you to do was add a few more controls onto your form. Radio buttons, selects, and get boxes. What you really need to be able to do when you do that is be able to get it in your PowerPoint. I'm sorry, in your PHP. Apologize, in your PHP code. Meaning, recall in the receiving PHP code, you got that get post to get the value of the text box. Well, how do you get it for a radio button? How do you get it for checkboxes, which you need to know for your assignment this week? And how do you get it for a drop-down box, which you'll be able to utilize in future assignments? Well, there's a great little website here. I don't have to repeat this again. It kind of tells you exactly what it is. And I gave this to you under week 5, okay? And it is get value by select and radio button. So in this case, I have a select. This will be a drop down, right? You've seen all these in HTML. I name it color. No matter what they pick, all we need to do on our side, make sure you hear this. You guys don't need to put this is set right now. There's no reason to do that is set. That's saying was the button submitted. We know based upon how we're writing this that the button was submitted. So is set is not really required. Okay. All you need to do is where you had the post before, okay, in your receiving PHP code, type in $post and the color. And it will literally bring over whichever one they selected. Pretty powerful, huh? For buttons, let's go down and find you a button here. Here we go. Let's keep going down. Buttons, obviously, have exclusive buttons that are all related to each other. You give them the same name. You know that, right? Um, from your HTML days. I know you're all saying, sure I do. Remember, all the radio buttons with the same name are all in the same group, okay? So we have the values here. Once again, don't worry about is set. All we're really doing is this right here. We don't even have to say is set there. Just whatever, you just pass the name. You go get the name. Whichever one they selected will come over in the value on the equal sign. Does that make sense? Let me see. Did I have another one here? Doesn't look like they do. So all you really need to do is just say $post radio, the name of the button group, okay, and have that equal to on the left side your variable on your receiving PHP. All right, and then checkboxes. Should probably let you guys go ahead and figure this out, but checkboxes on the same site that I gave you, just go right here, get values on multiple checkboxes. And this will show you how to go about doing that also, okay? And so we have a checkbox named gender, male, female. That's a checkbox. If we want to get multiple values out, you actually have a list, and it's almost like an array you're going to be pulling back over. So sort of play with that one. Once again, don't worry about is set. This one's a little bit trickier. You're going to do a for each. You're going to loop through each checkbox in that list, okay? And so we have a checkbox. We're doing a checklist. We're going to loop through them to figure out which ones were selected. Does that make sense? Take a look at that and see if you can't figure that out. What's kind of cool about this site I gave you, you can download the script. Feel free to do so and cut and paste. I'm all for that. And you can also get a live demo to watch it work. All right. So this site right here should help you out quite a bit to do the couple things that we actually wanted done this week, okay, for this. Once you get it working, I think you'll understand it. If you have any trouble, please send me an email. I'll help you out as much as I can. But I want you to try this. I want you to search for some things yourself a little bit, but I think I gave you everything you need to be successful this week. All right, good luck.